Greetings, Trinity family, and welcome back to our Lenten devotional series. This week, Holy Week, is an extraordinary time in the Christian life where we prepare ourselves to journey with Christ through the suffering of the cross and ultimately to receive the power of the resurrection. As we arrive at Maundy Thursday, I'm reminded of the many meals that I've been able to share with you across the conference. To be at table with you as lay leaders and as pastors and to feast on the food of your culture and your community. It's been an extraordinary gift for me. But I also think about all the tables that I've had the pleasure, opportunity, responsibility to sit at over these last months. I think about the negotiating table where I'm sitting and working through insurance contracts or other sort of bylaws or legal matters and thinking through all of the nuances there. What sort of tables do you sit at? I've had the opportunity to sit at our cabinet table as we've had conversations discerning the best path forward for a local church and the gifts of pastors and how they would align with the profiles that are created in that consultative process. I've had the opportunity to sit at a weighty and powerful moment at a signing table as the memorandum of understanding between the Tanzania Annual Conference and the Trinity Annual Conference was signed. And as Reverend Upendo Lukondi and I sat and signed that, I thought about the weight of that matter and the unity of that partnership. I've sat in visioning meetings and conversations at table with friends and colleagues as we've collaborated and envisioned what does God have in store for us? What is God doing amongst us and calling us to invest in? I've sat at mediation tables as we've had conflicted circumstances arise in a variety of forms and fashions, but those mediations are always tender and touching. And in that moment, I feel like at times those tables can become so business focused or so administrative or so driven that you might miss, or I might miss, who's present at the table with me. There's a story in Scripture that I just keep going back to and wondering why and how a particular element is the reality for the disciples. It's in Luke chapter 24. It's the road to Emmaus. The story is so beautiful and so familiar. I'm just going to open and journey through and then close this story as we hear the word of the Lord. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. And Jesus asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" And so they go forward and say, "How could you not have heard?" And they tell the story of all that had taken place and what Jesus had gone through. And then Jesus reveals to them the Scriptures, opens them up for them. And then in verse 28, it continues on. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he was going further. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took bread, he gave thanks, he broke it. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. I've often wondered why that was, how that was the case, that Jesus was with them, physically present with them, talking with them, discussing these things, opening the Scriptures for them, teaching them as he had done countless other times. And as they walked in that road, they were kept from recognizing him until he was at the table with them. What is this? Why is this? It's perplexing. And yet it might be evidence that Jesus was most recognizable to them in his truest, most authentic, purposeful, missional form. This reality that Jesus, when he gathered with them at Holy Communion, that Passover meal, and he took the bread and he said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." When he took the cup and said, "This is my blood, it's poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins." When he said those words, he was offering to them and to the world this reality that is truer than anything else we could ever know, that Jesus came for us, that God sent his son into the world for us, and that he loved us so much that he gave himself, sacrificed himself for us. This beauty of authenticity, this real, powerful truth that Jesus is here for us at the table, is something that we are to recognize in the sacrament of Holy Communion, is to be recognized every time we gather, because it is a chief means of grace. We are guaranteed that Jesus and his grace are present there. And yet we also should recognize that Jesus will never forsake us or abandon us. He will never leave us alone, and he will always be present with us at any and every table we ever gather at. In one of my favorite worship songs, Bristol House articulates Psalm 23, and there's a line in there that's really an adaptation of the original text, but it's so beautifully articulated. It says, "You prepare a table when I am surrounded." It's this true clarifying word of the gospel that even when we're surrounded by our enemies, even when enemies are all around and they're pressing in against us and we don't know how we are going to survive, how we are going to move forward, how we're going to make it through, God is preparing a table for us. He is making a way for himself to be present in our midst in this very moment. And so I want you to think about the tables of your life, the challenges that you're facing, the places where you don't see Jesus at work currently. And I invite you to hear that Jesus was with them all along the way. Their eyes just need to be open to that reality. And then may we join with those on the walk and road to Emmaus that are able to say, "Were not our hearts burning within us while Jesus talked with us and opened the scriptures to us?" May we see Jesus this day, Maundy Thursday, at the Holy Communion table, but may we also see him everywhere we go, in everything we do, at every table we meet at.